The gentleman yields. Ms. Maloy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're here talking about regulation in the transportation industry and building things, and we're a country that used to innovate and build things, and now we just regulate. Mr. Pugh, I'm going to start with you. You said that long-haul trucking is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the country. You also said that truckers are growing frustrated with this administration and all their regulations. If we have a different administration and we can change regulations, what would long-haul truckers like to see stripped out? I think in a post-Chevron world, we're going to be in a situation where Congress is making more of these decisions, and hopefully unelected bureaucrats are making fewer of the decisions, and you have our ear right now. What would you want Congress to know?
I think first and foremost would be this speed limiter rule that's been floated around for the last couple years. Truckers already are way under pressure with hours of service because they're regulated, of course, by the amount of time they can drive and the amount of time they're supposed to take a break. So if you add speed limiters into this, and of course drivers are paid by piecework, so when you add speed limiters in this, it's just putting more pressure on drivers. It's also been proven that inexperienced drivers and newer drivers feel this pressure and oftentimes speed in places that they probably shouldn't be speeding, two-lane roads and construction and stuff like that. So this is just, that's the first probably thing. Flexibility and more flexibility in hours of service would be very helpful, and also an elimination of a rule, and that's the elimination of the overtime exemption for driver pay, because that was put in like 1938. I think it's a little dated. Truckers should be paid for all the time that they work. They give away 20, 30 hours a week plus. Probably that would do better at managing speeds and a lot of other safety-related things that we talk about here and rules that we try to make. But a lot of these things we don't like to do because they're hard. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dewitt, same question. What regulations should we be looking at if Congress is making these decisions and not agencies? Sorry,
Thank you,
I caught you off
Representative.
guard.
Excuse me. Congress, including this subcommittee, has done a great job conducting oversight of the infrastructure law so far. But as we're halfway through it, I encourage you to keep up the law as implemented and make sure it is doing everything that's intended to do. Anything that we can do, contractors in general, we like the flexibility. Anything that we can have that gives us flexibility, gives the states flexibility, lets us do things in conjunction with the owner, certainly is always a benefit to anything that we can do.
Thank you. Mr. Bell, same question. If Congress is making these rules instead of agencies, what do you need us to know?
I got to tell you, at the SMA, we have a preference for regulatory certainty over regulatory overreach, and we really do believe that anything that Congress does needs to be followed and not circumvented by regulatory frameworks.
I agree. All right, Ms. Osborne, you've had the most time to think about it.
Thank you. I would love to see a reduction of some of the regulations on more innovative roadway designs. When we work with states and local agencies, particularly on attempting more innovative quick build projects to try new interventions, they run into antiquated standards in both the Green Book and in the MUTCD that make it hard to try new things. We regularly hear from roadway design engineers that they would like to do things like narrow lanes in order to make drivers know that's an area they should be going a little more slowly in, but they have to go through very elaborate and long exceptions processes, which slows down their projects and raises the cost of them, and then that's held against the engineers in their performance reviews. So I'd like to make it easier for them to do things that get the results that we want and deregulate some of those designs.
Thank you. I'm about out of time. I just want to wrap up by saying that I'm looking forward to being in a different regulatory framework where we can go back and look at some of these regulations that may have been there since the 30s that don't make sense anymore. So I appreciate your time. Appreciate you answering my question, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields to Mr. Garcia.
Thank you, Chair, Ranking Member, all of our witnesses. We all share the goal of making our highways and transit safer, more efficient, and more accessible. I'm glad to see that the Department